Hey guys, welcome to the Stick Figure Historian. This is our England series. Today we're going to talk about King Edward. Except which King Edward? I mean, there's been a lot of King Edwards. There's this one, this one, this one, this one, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Wait, go back to that one for a minute. Oh my goodness, that guy's ugly. I mean, look at that thing. Okay, moving on. That guy. Oh, here we are. Edward the Confessor. He's the big guy in the chair there. You know, I don't really like how he looks either. We're just gonna make our own here. Okay, here we go. King Edward. So, yes, more specifically, we're talking about Saint Edward the Confessor. Now, why is he called a saint? Okay, so the Catholic Church decides that if certain people lived really good lives, then they are called saints. But, of course, that's ridiculous because the Bible calls all Christians saints. But anyway, moving on. So, this guy was born over 1,000 years ago. About 1003, people think. So, but he didn't actually grow up in England. He grew up in a place called Normandy. So if we look at our map of Europe here, and we close in on it, we can see here's England up here, and here's France. And he actually grew up in this little part of France here called Normandy. Okay, so that's kind of weird, right? So, why? Well, alright, so we gotta look at another country. Here's Denmark, and here's England. So, people from Denmark are called Danes, okay? So, the Danes wanted to come take over England. So, when they came, Edward's father, Ethelred, ran away. Okay, sorry, we're gonna have to change that picture. That's so ugly, it's just going to be distracting. Okay, Ethelred. Here we go. So instead of saying and fighting, Ethelred ran away, which is why he gets the nickname the Unready later. So he ran away to Normandy with his wife and with Edward, who is then just a little boy. So because of that, Edward had a very hard time becoming king. He actually didn't come back to England until he was about 33 years old. So we got to get some backstory on how he came back. When Ethelred died, Emma, Edward's mother, went back to England and married Canute, which was the Danish king that came and took over England. So you're probably thinking, okay, that's really weird. Why is she marrying her husband's old enemy? Well, it wasn't for love. It was a political marriage, which often happens in this era. Anyway, they ended up having a son who they named Harthacanute. A rather strange name, Harthacanute. But obviously, when Canute dies, then Harthacanute becomes king of England and Denmark. And that's a big job. So he gave England to his half-brother Harold Harefoot. People and their weird names. And Harold Harefoot was going to rule England for him. And he gave a tiny little part of England to his mother Emma to rule also. So at this point, a lot of time has gone by, and Emma wants to see her sons left in Normandy again. So she sent a letter to Alfred and Edward asking them to come see her. So of course, they're very excited. So they get on a ship and they sail across the channel to England. Except when Harold Harefoot heard about this, he started freaking out because secretly, he had been hoping to take the crown of England for himself instead of just ruling it for Harthacanute. and he was afraid if Edward came, then he was going to take the throne. So he wasn't going to let that happen. So when Alfred landed, he was stopped by this guy here, Earl Godwin of Wessex. And Godwin had been made Earl of Wessex by Canute, a long time ago. And of course, he was willing to work with Harold because he wanted to keep his position. So he threw Alfred in prison and handed him over to Harold, and then Harold killed him. So much for that. Edward had a little bit more of a successful landing, but he met with an army. And they had a fight, and it didn't go so well, and he ended up having to run back to Normandy. Not so great for Alfred and Edward, but great for Harold, because, this is a chance he's been waiting for. So he sends Emma away into exile and proclaims himself king. But he didn't count on Harthacnut, and Harthacnut was mad. He got an army together, but before he even came to England with the army, Harold died. So he just came over real peaceful with Emma and proclaimed himself king. But he knew that he was going to die soon because he never had good health. And what's more is he never married, so he never had a son. And you do not want to die without naming an heir of your kingdom because it creates a lot of fighting because, everybody wants to be king. So he was kind of worried about this, and he wasn't really sure, who he was going to choose to be king next. And Emma saw this, and she suggested, why don't you choose Edward? And he was fine with it, so he called Edward back over from Normandy, and Edward met with a much warmer welcome than last time, no more armies and all that. So they proclaimed each other joint king, and they ruled England together for a little while until Harthacnut died. And then Edward finally became king. He was about 39 years old when it happened. It was a long road. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this story about King Edward. There are lots more, and we will be coming out with them soon in our England series.